It's getting hot in here. It's too hot, in fact. Experts around the world are becoming increasingly concerned as summer temperatures skyrocket globally. A new study is now saying that more than 3 billion people may be living in extreme heat by 2070, and that millions of people will be subject to heat stress, which is a dangerous condition that causes our organs to shut down. Last year was the hottest year on record in Europe, as temperatures reached up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks on end. And joining me from Boulder, Colorado is Kristopher Karnauskas, associate professor at the University of Colorado. So first of all, tell us exactly what heat stress is and how is it so dangerous?
Yeah, heat stress for living organisms, whether it's humans, coral reefs, crops, it's really a combination of temperatures that we're exposed to, but also for how long. Sometimes it takes into account humidity as well. So generally, it's a more useful predictor of adverse health outcomes that you mentioned.
Now, a new study has revealed that by 2070, I mentioned it before, more than 3 billion people could be exposed to extreme heat. How will global warming affect issues like immigration and, of course, movement as a whole?
Well, as far as mass migrations, I don't think that's clear. I would call this very much an emerging area of research, looking at how climate extreme events and long-term climate change impact migrations. It's a very important area of research. I think the issue is that mobility is complex. It's not as though everybody can or would just pack up and move when the environmental conditions become harsher.
Right.
There's lots of other factors, including border conflict, poverty, access to land and resources. But you're right. There's a lot of evidence that shows that we can have some negative impacts on the human body. For example, down in the tropics, there's a lot of work coming out recently that shows that people working in fields like sugarcane are even developing conditions like chronic kidney disease.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about the coronavirus crisis and how this has affected climate change and global warming as a whole. How has it affected both, if at all?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting and tragic experiment to watch. I think the short answer is not much. Back in March, when the most robust lockdown measures were taken, we did see a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and even a short-term decline in the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But by now, in the middle of the year, that's all been erased. By the end of the year, we may see a slight reduction in overall emissions, maybe to the tune of 10%. But even if we reduce our emissions by 10% this year, we're still emitting 90% of a very, very large number. And unless that's done year after year, we're not just accidentally making progress on the climate crisis. And neither was this anybody's idea for making progress on that important problem.
Yeah, well, initially, I mean, we were seeing animals coming back to the streets in major cities. There are a lot of positive impacts that we thought were occurring, but what you're saying obviously reflects something different. Now, we've seen some extremely hot temperatures in the Middle East specifically. Is this something that we can expect more of in the future? And why is this happening?
Absolutely. We never want to point to one specific extreme event and like a heat wave or a hurricane and say, okay, that event was caused by climate change. But what climate change does is it changes the odds. It makes things like this more likely and therefore more frequent to happen. And of course, we know why this is happening. Humans have been pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. So primarily due to fossil fuel burning, the amount of warming we're seeing in the frequency of these events is going to become more in the future.